Hello and welcome to Dose with Grace. I hope you're doing well and taking very good care of yourself. Today, I would love to share with you on a topic that is actually meaning something very special to me. You know, when a child is born in India, we form a horoscope for the child. The parents of the child go to a priest, and a horoscope is basically a planetary chart of the exact time of your birth and the location of your birth. And it is something that is so scientific, and it is basically telling a journey of a soul from many lives to finally into your this life. And it tells us a lot depending on the accuracy of the person who's creating it. And you know, according to my horoscope, my name is there's a letter that is given to us on which we can keep the name. Though my name is Aarti Sharma, but according to my horoscope, my name is MAITRI. It is quite a beautiful coincidence because today I really wanted to bring up this topic, and I thought, what is the way to introduce it to you in a way that it feels like how personally important it is to me, but at the same time, how relevant it is to really talk about this kind of consciousness around us. So that is one personal, resonance to this feeling, this kind of consciousness. However, the reason why I wanted to really bring this out is because I see among my closed ones the experience that I've had myself, that there are people today we see that who are very knowledgeable, including myself. We gain knowledge, we read books, and suddenly or gradually, not suddenly, gradually, we don't realize that with that knowledge comes along a certain sense of ego, a certain sense of self-belief that, I am this, and a sense of identity. And we try to so much live that identity because maybe it has become our profession, or maybe it has become our relevance to other people around us, and we just forget that we are more than that. We are not just that. So I have personally also experienced from the people around me, and most likely I myself have displayed, and I do remember many occasions where I have been probably, I would say the word is, you can use many connotations to it, maybe rude, arrogant, or slightly superiority complex or whatever. But it is something that comes as across as something to, on a very basic level, uncompassionate. So I'm trying to tap upon this word Maitri, which is also a word highly revered in Buddhism, though it comes from Sanatan Dharma. And it's a feeling. Like, how do you explain joy in a context of a lecture or something? It's very difficult. You have to experience it. That is what Maitri is all about. Just to put it around words, it is being friends with oneself. That is Maitri. Being friends with oneself, fully embracing ourselves. And when I say fully embracing, means fully embracing ourselves as in all our goods, all our bads, all our flaws, all our great points, all our learnings, and all of our experiences that make us who we are. Self-compassion is another way to express it. Being kind, loving, and benevolent. But all of that happens through first being friends with your own self. being so friendly with yourself that you don't expect that joy will come from any other source that is other than you. So, for example, uh, or happiness coming from the outside to live, to enjoy, that kind of a spirit will come from somewhere else. So, say for example, from other people or from other things. For example, sometimes we say that if I do a lot of exercise, I feel happy. If I do yoga, I feel very happy. If I do affirmations, I feel very happy. If I if I achieve something, if I do small achievements, if there is a sense of recognition of my efforts, that makes me happy. Or on a very material level, some gifts make me happy, or certain, or even small positive outcomes of my actions make me happy. Or my uncle makes me happy, my mother makes me happy, my parents make me happy, my children make me happy. So this means that the happiness source is not you yourself. The happiness source has been sort of delegated outside of you. And that is what is not Maitri. Maitri means you are the source of your joy and happiness. Everything around you, all these things that I said, the people around you, the things around you, the affirmations, the jogging, the yoga, the small achievements, the positive outcomes of your results, the gifts that you receive, and even the fleeting beautiful things around you, those also contribute, but they are not the source. Because there is joy and happiness, you look at them and you're able to recognize them. Just as you're able to, when you're in a happy mood, even the rain looks happy, the birds look happy, everything looks happy. And when you're in a sad and pensive mood, you look at the rain and you're like, okay, even my day is spoiled. And why there is so much noise and chirping from the birds outside my window? I really don't need that noise. And everything looks gloomy and bad because you are sad. So it's very important to have that. Why? Because if we are not sad, if we are sad, if you're a sad person, if you're an unhappy person, or if we don't have that source of liveliness about life within ourselves, and we are looking at it somewhere else, at some point in time, that source is going to leave us, or that source is going to get depleted, or that source is going to transform into something else, because everything is into change process. The only thing constant is change. If suppose you put all your happiness in your children, and if the source of happiness is their cute cuddliness towards you, their toothless smiles, and all of that is not going to remain forever. They're soon going to have teeth. They're soon going to leave your laps and start walking around. They'll soon have their own choices, and soon they'll leave your nest. If you attach too much happiness to the positive outcomes in your life, well, we all know that life is not always positive. It's not always going to have results of your actions coming always in your favor. There has to be a detour sometimes. There has to be curveballs, and that's life. That's life, because no one in this world has always had a straight path and always had a growth path. There is always ups and downs, and those ups and downs are called life. If you derive your pleasure only through an amazing body and having a fit and a very healthy body, and therefore you're obsessed about exercise and diets and all, there is going to be some breakdown somewhere. Even if you don't create it, the nature will create it for you. I've seen many people who are obsessed about it have had a very tragic incident, after which they had to be literally stopping what they were doing. So Nature brings roadblocks to, to help us understand that nothing outside of you is the reason or the source of your joy or happiness. You are. And that is the first principle, even in Buddhism, which is called Maitri. Being friends with yourself. And second is compassion, karuna. And then comes giving that love to others. But if we can't give that love to ourselves, it is impossible that we can give love to even the person who's next to us, even the person from whom we receive love. And that is exactly why I wanted to bring up this topic, because I'm seeing this a lot around me. I'm seeing this a lot within me, and I'm consciously making an effort to be very loving to myself so I can be very loving in my words, in my actions, in my thoughts to others. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says we don't do just karma through our hands, through our actions. We also do karma through our mind. How we think, how we act is one way of doing karma, but also the thoughts that we generate, because ultimately those thoughts are going to translate into actions. What we speak to others, is our speech loving and caring? Is it having any sense of reverence? Is it coming from the sattvic place? Is it coming from the place of godliness? Or is it coming from the place of jealousy? Is it coming from the place of entitlement? Or is it coming from a place of superiority complex? But more often than not, you will see if someone is an expert in something, they are so proud of their expertise that they forget that they're more than that. They may be expert in something, but they're also a human being. So that sense of empathy is lacking. But when I looked one step behind, that sense of empathy doesn't come on its own. It has to be cultivated. It has to be nurtured every single day within us. And that's actually anyway step 2. The step 1 is Maitri, being friends with yourself. If we are so harsh upon ourselves, imagine someone who is a great counselor and now they're wearing a mask and roaming around in this world as a great counselor. And something happens in their family and their family member approaches them and says, this happened to me. They are so much wearing that mask, they've forgotten that it's a mask. They're not able to even drop that mask for their own family member. And they go on giving advice like a counselor. They forget that all I need to be is a sound listening ear. I just need to be there as a family. This is one example where unknowingly this grows into us. And why is it happening? Because that person has forgotten that though they are a counselor, but they're a human being. Their needs as human beings are same. We all need to nurture our own selves. We all need to love our own selves. We all need to care for our own selves. And we all need to be first friends with our own selves before we can be loving, caring, nurturing, and be friend to others. So how do we nurture Maitri in us? Because that is the very, very, very basic and very first step towards being loving and kind in this world. Where do we develop Maitri? Or how do we develop Maitri within ourselves? It is a lot to do with our association with pain. Yes, being friends with ourselves has got a lot to do with our association with pain. How we understand pain, how we perceive pain, and how we respond to pain is very, very important understanding to developing Maitri or being friendship with our own selves. Do we avoid pain? Do we ignore pain? Or we completely are so uncomfortable with any painful situation that we almost run away, a flight response from pain. So we just put it under the carpet, or we just become numb to it. Instead of either of these three, avoidance can be in the form of not wanting to go into the depth of the feeling, how you're feeling, or not wanting to acknowledge that there is pain, not wanting to be in a circumstance and just hold yourself there, just leaving the premises or leaving that person. Sorry. So being in that kind of space where we are experiencing pain and just being there, though it's not comfortable, but just being there and holding yourself for a while, and then we realize that it's not that difficult. Ignoring pain could be in the form of ignoring those people who bring you pain, pushing them away, ignoring those places which remind you of that pain, or ignoring those experiences that have memory of that pain, or even ignoring to actively engage with life, because in some cases some people can have big traumas, or ignoring that aspect of your personality, because every time you go to that aspect of your personality, it brings out a memory of pain. So people, places, experiences, and aspects of your personality. And the third is uncomfortable, being so uncomfortable that literally flight syndrome, running away, which is what most of us do, or bottling it up. Instead, what is the best way to have association with pain? Because pain is inevitable. So let's understand it first, that it is almost not possible for any existing human being to not have any experience of pain. Even in Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated by Sri Krishna that as long as a jiva takes birth, anything that has a life takes birth, it is subjected to three kinds of miseries. One is the misery from death and old age. We all have to die one day. We all will get old one day. Miseries from natural calamities, like we saw in COVID. Nobody was, at least not subjected to it. They may not have caught corona, but they actually had that awareness that in a way they were restricted by it. And similarly, many other natural calamities that happen across us, and they come sometimes unnoticeable, and even though precautions, we have become so highly technologically sound, we still cannot completely put it under control instantly. So the miseries that are created through natural calamities are also part of the earth school. So they will be any person who comes in this earth as a alive jiva or an alive existing soul, they will have to go through the miseries of natural calamities. And the third one is the miseries created by the people around us, because all of us are existing in a matrix with, like, we are born to someone, we are born in a family. So there you go. The beginning itself, we are interactions. We are having interactions, and we are interacting with other human beings. And most of the times, there is an individual learning and then there is a group learning of a soul. So the miseries created by other people are bound to be associated in this life, in every life, for every single person. They can be of different types and varieties and may come at different stages and ages of our life, but they are going to be there. So miseries from old age and death, we are all growing older as the day passes. So that is inevitable. We are all gonna die one day. Miseries from the natural calamities that happen from time to time, again unknown and unannounced, and miseries from the people around us. So these are there for everyone. Apart from that, our own karmas also create many miseries for us. Our own thought process can create a lot of miseries for us. Now, these are part of our existence. So, for example, unfruitification of our efforts is the miseries we inflict upon ourselves. Even though clearly it is said in Bhagavad Gita, our right is to do our karma. We have no right over the fruits of our karma. It is only and only subject to our how our karmas have been, and we don't know. Only in this life karmas do not account. We've been living a journey of a soul. This is a very short span we are living in this life. So what we deserve is what we get. However, we always want positive outcomes, or at least some reward for our efforts. So unfruitification of one's effort is one of the misery that we all are living with. Why didn't I get this? Why didn't I get that? Why didn't I get it in this amount? Or why didn't I get it this sooner? Or why didn't I get it in front, in the presence of this person? Or why I'm not getting this the way I want? All these are the personal miseries we inflict upon ourselves, even though we clearly know all this is actually clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that this is not something we don't have ever control over. In fact, all the first 3 months also we don't have control over. We cannot stop our age. We are only growing a day older after a day. So knowing that certain pain is inevitable and just part of our natural growth and development, what is the way to develop that friendship with ourselves despite all of this around us? Number 1, it is understanding what pain I'm going through, understanding the nature of pain. Sometimes what we understand as pain is actually not a pain, it's a growth that we are going through. Imagine when a seed is turning into a seedling and is slowly taking out its roots. It's going through the complete combustion of its outer layer, and from that comes 2 tiny roots and comes a shoot, and that shoot has to pierce through the upper layer of the soil to literally come out as a tiny twig. And what we see at the end of it, we find it very beautiful. Wow, my garden is now growing. But imagine what that seed had to go through for your garden to grow. And imagine one day when you may not be there anymore to see, that one little seed would have created a huge tree, which would have created many fruits and flowers, which would have, after pollination, turned into a forest, possibly, if no one literally disturbed it. So look at the growth process that nature supports. So, but if you look at the individual step, it may look painful. So Maitri is understanding, and understanding is a very deep word. Understanding what? Understanding the nature of pain. Understanding that understanding and fully exploring and imbibing, reflecting and being with that pain. And then we realize it has its purpose. It has a very, very higher purpose even for us, and not just for us. Since I said we are a matrix, it purpose for the entire existence. Once we develop this kind of a knowledge that it is not healthy to run away from pain, to avoid it, or to ignore it, but to just sit with it, we realize half of our pain is gone anyway because of the fact that we are letting ourselves sit with it. It's just like a crying child. When it's crying, and you, instead of ignoring it, it will howl to get your attention. But if you sit across it, look it into the eyes and say, I'm here. Tell me what happened. What's making you cry? You take away almost all of the pain of that child. It's almost gone because you're there for it. So be there for your pain. Second, accepting. Sometimes the pain is self-caused. So then accepting the cause, accepting where it's coming from. And in acceptance, there's no judgment. It's just understanding, first of all, the nature of pain, and then accepting its cause. Acceptance of the cause helps us take our first step towards making any rectifications if they are possible from our end, or if there is something we are contributing towards that pain. At least having that awareness. Most of the time, the pain that we have been inflicted with, the pain that we are suffering from, has been caused to us by ourselves. Most of the time. If not 99, if not 100%, but 99.9%. We are the cause of our own pain. And we are the cure for our own pain. That is why accepting its cause is mostly a great way to even have self-progression into the journey of evolution of our own understanding of who am I. The third, embracing it. Once you've understood the source, once you've understood the cause, now embracing it. If you know any corrective measures that you can take, you will take it. But then embracing yourself fully and not putting yourself down for saying, why I did that. Like I said, no judgments. Because it's impossible to not make errors in life. To err is human. Accepting that with all humility, the humanness in us, that as humans, we all do mistakes. And we all do mistakes all the time. In a single day, we do millions of mistakes. And most of the time, we are not aware of it. Here, once you become aware of it, very consciously forgiving yourself, very consciously embracing that part of yourself is called MAITRI, is being friends with yourself. Because yourself is also that part which did that mistake, which caused you pain eventually. So embracing that part, healing that part of yourself, that is MAITRI. You scored less in your exam, understanding where it came from, trying to take corrective measures, or planning at least this is how I will do from my next time onwards. But then loving and accepting yourself, loving and embracing that part of yourself who was silly enough to do that. When we do that for ourselves, we will realize we are so much happier, so much contented, and so much in peace with the existence, despite the curveballs, despite things not turning into our favor, despite the changes which can overwhelm anyone. But if we sit and remind ourselves every day that yes, this is what is giving me pain, first sitting with that. And pain doesn't necessarily mean physical pain. It could be emotional pain, it could be psychological, it could be even a pain in some area of your work, finances, relationships, academics, or even your own health. But understanding, then accepting, and then finally embracing. You know, there is a very beautiful thing I heard today from uh, a saint who's a woman. And she said, um, the more I'm aging, the more I'm realizing who am I. And in that she understood that all these little titles that she has given to herself, the the identities, the achievements, the knowledge that I am, the achievements that I am, the identity that I am, the person that I am, as she went into more of her own journey of self inquiry, she realized she's downloading so much information, she's downloading so much creativity within her, she's downloading so much um, vastness within her, so much space to do more creative pursuits. She's remembering a lot of things that are so relevant to her and so purposeful and make her life so rich and full. And she then realized, oh, I'm expanding, I'm more, I'm more and more. And she almost touched her spirit. And she said that she realized that I am so much more than what my outer cover was telling me and what my ego was telling me. Oh my God, that was restricting me. You know, the more you have Maitri, the more you know yourself, the more you begin to be friends with yourself, you'll realize you are suddenly expanding like an ocean. And you know what is such a beautiful thing, she said, that most of us say, I want to travel, I want to see the world, I wish I had the money. And she said, if you today give me a free ticket to see the whole world, I will say, no, thank you. I'm really happy where I am. I'm so settled. I'm so calm. I'm so peaceful. I'm happy. So, you know, that is what truly, I think, personified to me in a way how you can explain the feeling of Maitri, that you're home with yourself. You're at home with yourself, with all the tribulations of life around you, which are natural. Like I said, they're inevitable. The miseries from people, miseries from calamities, miseries of old age and death, and so many other things, unfulfilled desires, and this and that. But with all of that, the changes around you, but you're still at home with yourself. Wherever you go, you're carrying that paradise. And that is not another person, another experience, another achievement or a fulfillment, but that is you. You're carrying yourself everywhere. So make this a beautiful temple of, or a paradise of happiness, peace, and love, unbound love. That is first filling yourself up with it, and then when you overflow, that is the next step, which is compassion. So first is Maitri, and then once you have nurtured Maitri within yourself, comes compassion. You cannot afford to be compassionate to another person if you're not compassionate to yourself. So being friends with oneself, being compassionate to yourself, self-compassion, being kind, loving, and benevolent comes from being friends with yourself. From this small box that we are made of ourselves, that I'm this, let's expand like an ocean. Let's fly like wind and expand our horizons. Feel comfortable within ourselves. Nothing has to change externally, but believe that we are our best friends. We are the most loving thing to ourselves. And that is when we will truly become first compassionate to ourselves, and then through that overflowing cup, we will become compassionate automatically. That's a byproduct of being very loving towards our own self. Until then, hope you all nurture Maitri in yourself. I am doing it too. I am practicing it too every day. Sitting with any moment I feel difficult or painful, I sit with it. I try to understand it. I try to accept my contribution into it. And then once I understand what to do to make sure that I am not contributing towards it, I embrace that part fully, love myself for giving myself that time. And through that, I grow in my heart. I do that every time. I'm reminding myself to continuously practice it at least once in a day. I hope you do too. And then maybe next time we can talk about the very next step, compassion. Until then, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you for watching Dose with Grace. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.